Today's episode is sponsored by Land Gorilla, the premier software for managing renovation and construction loans. Let's face it, renovation loans can be messy, but your draw management shouldn't be. Land Gorilla brings draw requests, disbursements, change orders, and project data all into one single experience. The platform eliminates communication gaps so you can deliver faster draws and scale your pipeline safely. Learn more at landgorilla.com. One of the questions I've been asked more than any other over the years is surprisingly simple. Jennifer, should my buyer get a contractor's bid before writing the offer or after? My answer has almost always been, it depends. I know that's probably not the answer people are hoping for. Most of us like hard and fast rules, but renovation lending doesn't always work that way. Sometimes writing the offer first is exactly the right strategy. Other times, it makes perfect sense to have a contractor look at the property before the offer is submitted. The trick is knowing your market. So let's start with a myth. One myth I hear quite often is that renovation buyers should have a contractor inspect the property before they make an offer. It sounds logical until you think about what might happen. So imagine you're in a competitive market. Homes in any shape are in demand. While your buyer is trying to coordinate schedules with a contractor, maybe two contractors if they want to get more than one bid, another buyer submits an offer. And just like that, they've lost the house. The opportunity is gone. I've seen buyers lose houses simply because they were trying to answer every question before they made a decision. Sometimes speed matters. Now, let's look at the other side. Of course, not every market looks like that, right? Some properties sit on the market for weeks, maybe even months. The seller isn't receiving multiple offers. They may be perfectly willing to let a contractor go through the property before purchase agreement is signed. In those situations, there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting a contractor's opinion before writing an offer. If everyone has the time, why not gather more information? Again, the important thing is knowing your market, and then you can decide if you have options. Here's what many people don't realize. Even if you write the offer first, your buyer isn't unprotected. Remember a couple of episodes back when we talked about the contingency language that's included in purchase contracts? There's a reason I always encouraged real estate agents to include it. If the contractor's bid comes back significantly higher than expected, or an agency or the underwriter requires repairs the buyer isn't willing to accept, that contingency gives the buyer an opportunity to step back, reevaluate, before they commit to the transaction. That's exactly what it's there for. Not to create uncertainty, but to manage it. Another question I hear is, how can a buyer possibly know what to offer if they don't have a contractor's estimate? Well, the answer is actually simpler than most people expect. The offer is based on what the buyer believes the home is worth today, in its current condition, maybe combined with a reasonable estimate of what they expect the renovations to cost. Notice that I said reasonable estimate, not a perfect estimate. You're not trying to predict the cost of every nail, every light fixture, every gallon of paint before you even know if the seller is willing to accept the offer. You're simply determining whether the project appears financially feasible enough to move to the next step. The detailed planning comes later, and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. As mortgage loan officers, we sometimes feel like we have to have every answer before our borrower can make a decision. But renovation lending doesn't work that way. One of the most valuable things you can say is, based on what we know today, here's the approach that makes the most sense. As we gather more information, we'll continue refining the plan together. I think that's a much healthier way to approach renovation lending. You're not pretending to know everything on day one. You're helping your borrower make a good decision based on the information available to them today, and recognizing that more information will become available as the transaction moves forward. That's not uncertainty. That's simply good project management. And don't confuse planning with commitment. I think that's one of the biggest lessons here. Some buyers feel like they need to have every answer before taking the first step, but renovation lending is a process. You don't need to have every answer on day one. You simply need enough information to make a good decision. Then you gather better information as the transaction progresses. And let's not forget the selling agent's involvement here. It's their job to help a buyer determine what a property is worth as is in its current condition today before the renovations have been done. So the purchase contract would be dependent on the property's current value, and that's something a selling agent should definitely be able to help the buyer with. In closing, which comes first, the bid or the offer? Well, the answer is whichever one makes the most sense for your buyer, their market, and the seller's willingness to cooperate. Sometimes that's the bid. Sometimes it's the offer. Neither approach is automatically right or wrong. The mistake is believing that there's only one way to do it. If there's one thing I can leave you with today, it's this. Don't let the pursuit of perfection keep your borrower from pursuing the right opportunity. Our job isn't to eliminate every unknown before the process begins. It's to help our borrowers make sound decisions at every step of the journey. I'd like to invite a little bit of listener engagement. I'd love to hear your experiences. Have you had a buyer lose a property because they waited too long to gather information? Or have you seen the opposite happen, where taking the time to get a contractor involved before writing the offer saved them from making an expensive mistake? Every market is different, and I'd love to hear what you're seeing in your part of the country. Send me your stories, your questions, future topic ideas to jennifer@therenogal.com or leave a message at 844-RENO-GAL and follow the prompts. Thank you for spending a part of your day with me. This is Renovate Ed for Lenders. Thank you for listening to Renovate Ed for Lenders. This episode was brought to you by Land Gorilla. Deliver clarity to borrowers, contractors, and your operations team with the industry's most trusted draw management solutions. Visit landgorilla.com today.